Thanks, Andrew. So I'm just going to focus on really encompassing calf price, or what would be the impact of encompassing calf price into the dairy EBI. Okay. Just to give you a bit of background in the cattle populations here in Ireland, there's a huge crossover between the dairy and the beef populations here in Ireland. So approximately 60% of our dairy cows are mated to dairy sire, but the remaining 40% are mated to beef sires. So these beef sires usually enter the dairy herds in the final part of the mating season, really as mop-up bulls. So therefore there's a lot of beef cross progeny that is on the ground from the dairy herds. Some of these will go as replacements into the suckler herd, or some of them will actually be slaughtered here in Ireland. So approximately 35% of the animals slaughtered here in Ireland actually originate from the dairy herd. So in a quota scenario, or previously, many dairy farmers here in Ireland actually retained beef cross animals on farm. This was especially important in years when milk price was low, because these animals acted as a top-up to income on dairy farms. However, with the abolishment of quotas coming in Europe in 2012 or possibly sooner, the emphasis of the dairy farmer will go back on milk production. So therefore all surplus animals, or these beef cross animals, will be sold off farm as soon as possible. Just to give you a quick synopsis of our breeding objective, or dairy breeding objective here in Ireland. I'm sure you've heard it by this stage, but it's the Economic Breeding Index, or the EBI. It was introduced to Ireland in 2000, and since the year 2000 it has been evolving to better reflect overall farm profitability. It's composed of a number of sub-indices. So at the minute there's actually 6 sub-indexes. There's milk, fertility, calving, beef, maintenance and health. So if you look through the years, you see that prior to the introduction of the EBI in 2000, we had the RBI, and complete emphasis was placed on milk production then, but as you see, as we go through the years, more functional traits have come into the actual EBI. So in the year 2005, there was a beef sub-index added to the EBI. So this was to reflect the beef cross animals, or the dairy cross animals that are sold off farms and enter really the food chain here in Ireland. So here we're talking, the traits that were included were carcass weight, carcass conformation and carcass fat score, as well as cull cow carcass weight. However, it should be remembered at this stage now, the first 3 traits there are carcass weight, fat and conformation score. Most of the value of this is actually realised by the beef farmers now in Ireland rather than the dairy farmers. So really these 3 traits are not really that relative to a dairy farmer at the minute in Ireland. So a potential trait to look at including in the EBI is actual calf price. So we have approximately 100 livestock auctions, or what we call marts here in Ireland. So they're a valuable marketing outlet source for both beef and dairy farmers here in Ireland. Approximately 1.5 million animals go through these marts each year. So the potential is to look at introducing calf price into the EBI to replace the progeny carcass traits. So if we look at including calf price, well, we need to look at the prerequisites for actually including a new trait into the index. So the first criteria is that the trait must be economically, environmentally or socially important. The second prerequisite is that it must be easily measurable, or is genetically correlated with a trait that is easily measurable on the ground. And the third criteria is that it must exhibit genetic variation. So if we look at the first criteria, well, previous research has shown that approximately 20% of dairy farm income can come from the sale of calves and cull cows. So we can therefore say that it is an economically important trait here in Ireland. Easily measurable is the next criteria. Well, now mart data is flowing in routinely to the ICBF and has been for the last couple of years. If we actually just look at the number of calf records that are available for genetic evaluation, so this is after all edits, we see that from the year 2008 onwards, when there's a large amount of data available there, approximately 30,000 records on calves, and these are all calves that originated from the dairy herd. If we look at why we picked calf price rather than some other trait of price, this actually shows you the distribution of the age of calves that are sold in Ireland. So you see there's a huge drop off at 42 days of age. The reason for this is that TB testing becomes mandatory in Ireland for 6 weeks of age onwards, so that most farmers are actually getting rid of their animals off farm prior to incurring the cost of TB testing. So therefore we can say that it is easily measurable and the data is freely available here in Ireland. The third criteria is that it must exhibit genetic variation. Well, previous studies have shown that there is ample genetic variation here in Ireland for calf price. So using Irish data, we established that there was a heritability of 34% for calf price and a genetic standard deviation of 25 units. So the objective of this study then was to examine the usefulness of including calf price into our dairy breeding objective, or the EBI. And the third objective was to quantify the impact on genetic gain when calf price replaced the progeny carcass traits. So here we're talking about carcass weight, carcass conformation and carcass fat score. So we developed two separate selection indices to look at this effect. So the first one just looked at the current goal traits that are included in the EBI, so the 6 sub-indices, and the second sub-index looked at calf price replacing the progeny carcass trait. So again, that's carcass weight, carcass fat and carcass conformation score. We have previously reported genetic parameters and correlations for all the goal traits. The genetic correlation between calf price and the goal traits was calculated using reliable EBVs for AI bulls here in Ireland. Economic values for all the goal traits have already been calculated using a Moorpark Dairy Systems bioeconomic model here in Ireland. The only economic value that we needed to calculate was the economic value for calf price. However, we assumed an economic value of 1 for calf price because the economics of calf price is already assumed in the EBV of the animal. And then we also calculated the relative emphasis and looked at the change in relative emphasis on the 5 sub-indices from including calf price over and above the progeny carcass traits. So just to look at some of the results. The first results I'll show you is the genetic correlations between calf price and the current goal traits included in the EBI. So you see that the correlations varied from minus 0.2 up to 0.57. So you see that there was weak negative correlations between calf price and some of the production traits such as milk, fat and protein. There's also a negative correlation between calf price and calving interval. The strongest genetic correlations were recorded between calf price and carcass conformation, which isn't really surprising because when a farmer goes out there in the mart and is paying money for a calf, he's looking at the end product and he's really looking at how much money he's going to get from the slaughter of that animal. We also see that there's strong correlations or moderate correlations between calf price and some of the calving traits. Again, this is not surprising. When a farmer goes out there to the mart, he's looking for the bigger animals that will grow faster. In terms of the response to selection, so if we just look at the current EBI and what it's actually doing to calf price without including calf price in the EBI, we see that it is increasing the genetic gain in calf price by 54 cents per annum. It's further increased when we include calf price, and again these are replacing the progeny carcass traits, so we can get the genetic gain in calf price up to €1.58. Overall, the inclusion of calf price had little impact on the other goal traits, but it did reduce genetic gain on some of the production traits. So in terms of milk production, genetic gain was decreased by approximately minus 7 kilos. However, there is a negative emphasis on milk at the minute, and this was made more negative really by the addition of calf price. But again, this is reflective of what's going out there in the industry. Irish farmers are paid rather for milk, fat and protein percentage now rather than actual volume. There was a slight decrease in terms of genetic gain for fat and protein, but again these still remain positive, so we are still selecting for fat and protein in the index. Genetic gain did increase, but the overall profit is likely to be reduced slightly due to the fact that there is a negative or a decrease in genetic gain on some of these production traits. In terms of the relative emphasis, I've listed the 6 sub-indices on the left-hand side or the right-hand side, and you can see that it had little overall impact in terms of the relative emphasis on the 6 sub-indices. In terms of the beef, you see the reduced emphasis. It went from 15% to where we are at currently, down to 9% when calf price was included, but it had little overall impact on the other sub-indices. So just to conclude, the beef component of the dairy herd is an important factor here in Ireland and should be included in our dairy national objective in the EBI as it is currently. However, the inclusion of calf price into the EBI to replace the progeny carcass traits will not alter the response to selection for the current gold traits dramatically, but will more accurately reflect on-farm profitability for our Irish dairy herds. Thank you.